Well, tonight at the Willows, we're having what's we called a night in white. And that's because it's Women's Equality Day. August 26th is the day when the 19th Amendment actually became law. There are other dates you've probably been hearing about celebrating in the last few days, but this is the day the actual signatures went in and the 19th Amendment became part of our Constitution. The reason I chose Night in White is because Alice Paul, who was one of the main suffragettes, who was one of the more militant ones, in fact, learned that public relations was very important. And since they only had black and white photography in those days, that the white stood out that the women wear as opposed to the black suits that the men wear. So they really made an image that could be transported throughout the country in a way that highlighted women and what they were doing.
The founder of the league was Carrie Chapman Catt, and she was one of the principal players that pushed the 19th Amendment when they approved it in Tennessee. She and her friend Alice Paul, she was the tough cop, and Carrie Chapman Catt was the nice cop. And between the two of them, they struggled. And then to think that it only got passed by one vote. A nice congressman from, I guess, Tennessee, his mother wrote him a note and said, "You better vote there, be a good boy." So off we went. So the rest is history. But the stories are good, and I think we need to share them.
Well, the first thing is whenever you want to use the Willows, you need to go to the township. And the Park and Recreation Department allows you to make reservations well in advance to secure a certain spot in the township at one of their public places. So I reserved the Willows picnic area. We have, as you can see, the signs around here posted for the park, which includes social distancing, includes wearing a mask, and we will be sitting at picnic tables, as you can see, outdoors, because that's much more safe than inside, so we didn't want to have an indoor venue. And we just happened to luck out to have a beautiful night. So because it's outdoors, we're socially distancing, and we're wearing masks. We're trying to do everything that is appropriate under the current COVID requirements.
Well, I was surprised because I thought it would be the usual suspects that were here tonight, and we have so many more people. So I think we actually have a lady who came because she bought an outfit and there was no place else for her to go. So she brought her side, and here she is tonight. So I think it's the start of big things for the league yet again.
So when I saw that this was happening, I was like, great, because I bought this dress a couple of years ago in anticipation for 2020, thinking, oh, I'm going to get to wear it to all these things. And then, of course, quarantine happened. So I didn't get to wear it anywhere. But when I saw the email and the event, I was like, all right, that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm going to do. So I made the sign. And we're here for the picnic, and it's, nice to at least do something to recognize the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment.
The first thing I started working with was imported fabrics from Cambodia that women were hand weaving, and it was raising funds for a women and children's HIV and AIDS center in Cambodia. And we did that for a couple of years where I would buy their fabric and that would support them. And then fast forward a couple of years to 2016, and I ended up going to the Women's March in DC and took a lot of photographs, something like 400 of different posters and placards that I thought were really very pithy. And when I got back to my shop, I looked at these photos and they looked like a giant quilt on my computer screen. And I thought, well, I can't make a quilt out of it. That would be one quilt in a zillion years, but I could certainly turn them into scarves and try and sell them and raise funds for Planned Parenthood. I really wanted to do some things for organizations which were nonpartisan because I felt like Planned Parenthood is an organization which has gotten a lot of division among people and the way they think about it. So with the Academy of Natural Sciences, I kind of thought that would be, who can argue with that? And so that one is all about the environment. And the one about the National Constitution Center, I thought, who can argue with trying to help educate people to learn more about the Constitution? And then with the League of Women Voters, I knew that the centennial was coming up, and I thought we've got to be able to celebrate that.
My daughter is 23 years old. I have 3 daughters, and my youngest wanted to be here so much because it impressed me that she was impressed with this event. And I thought, wow, we've come such a long way that these 20-year-olds, everyone tries to put down and say they're the crazy generation. She was just so excited to be a part of the voting, and she's been watching the, the conventions, and I'm just watching her because I know at 23 I was not doing that. But fast forward to see these kids do this and to be so excited about what's happening right now and want to be a part of it, it really impressed me.
I am one of the student co-founders of the League of Women Voters student chapter at Radnor High School, which is just a club of students who our main goal has been registering seniors, people who are 18, getting them excited about voting. And then there's just a lot of volunteer opportunities in general with Roberta and the Radnor League. So we wanted to extend the communication between the students and the league in Radnor so that there's a better communication for those volunteer opportunities, and we have better access to the students, because the best people to get seniors excited to vote are the students themselves.
It's really interesting because there's a lot of opportunities that I myself would have completely missed. Like last year over the summer we went to the Capitol and we got to learn so much about how everything just runs there. Got to meet many representatives, and it was just a very interesting experience where I learned so much that we would not have had without the league. Plus, it's so much fun to work with Roberta, just to see her walking around.
When we were in Harrisburg, she was like on the first name basis with so many people. We would just be walking in the hallways. She would be like, "Oh, hi, Bill," and so getting her as our mini tour guide, and we run around, and she had us pass out these Chinese finger traps. And the message was that we wanted the representatives to work together, because the only way to successfully escape the finger trap was to have your fingers work together, or something along those lines.
So over this summer, I worked on making a website to help other students across our state register to vote and help them start their own student chapters at their schools, so they can also register other students at their schools. So the website basically just details how you can get involved and how you can also get involved with your local League of Women Voters no matter where you are. A lot of our day-to-day lives depend on voting. Elections such as school board elections decide many things that affect you on day-to-day. So it's important to research your candidates and make sure that you are being represented in the best way possible. Well, we learned about the 19th Amendment in school, and I first learned about it with the League, and then we learned more about it with the school. And I know that a lot of women went through protests and many things, including jail time, in order to make sure that all women and people have the right to vote if they're eligible. And I think it's really important to honor them and to exercise your rights.
It means so much to all of us here this evening. I know I have a grandmother that when she got the right to vote in 1920, she walked 15 miles one way to vote. So it's pretty significant for me, and I think we never forget it, do we?
Suffrage was a long-fought battle for women. It began actually with John Adams' wife, who said when he was first drafting our founding documents that he should remember the women, but men were very hesitant to give any power that they had to women. So it took hundreds of years after 1776 before we even got to the table. And the trick is, while suffrage seems like it should be over, it still isn't over, because people still don't have the right to vote in the way that makes it accessible and safe for all people to do so. So the League of Women Voters continues the work of the suffragettes in terms of ensuring that the vote is fair and secure and accessible to everyone who is eligible to vote in our country. And there are still people who are, let's face it, suffering because people who have power don't want to give it up.
Women have had to fight for so many years so hard to get the basic rights that for men have been there. And I keep thinking that women shouldn't have to keep fighting. There shouldn't have to be the fact that the ERA had not been passed, I think is just bizarre. I feel like the fact that women are making less money on the dollar than men for similar jobs in the same jobs still is bizarre. So it's kind of a continuum, I guess. You know, this was something that started over 100 years ago. Finally, they got the 19th Amendment, but at the same time, there's still a long way to go.
So just thinking about it and thinking how they did so much just 100 years ago reminds me that today we have so much more that we could fix, but that it's possible to actually have this change, because they did it then, we can do it now.